Following Senator Bernie Sanders' hospitalization last week, there are questions reverberating about whether he's healthy enough to be president. The 78-year-old is at home recovering and is feeling good. He says he will still release his medical records when the time is right.
Sanders, of course, is slated to attend the 4th Democratic presidential debate in Ohio. That is happening next week. His campaign says there are plans to change the nature of his schedule to ensure the senator has the strength to do what he needs to do. So why are there still calls for him to step aside? Joining us to weigh in is Tim Black, owner of TBTV and host of The Tim Black Show. Welcome, sir. We are so excited you're here.
Great to see you, Tim.
Thank you very much for having me, guys.
There's like literally, I think we told you, there's like literally not a day that goes by that someone's not in our feed like, please have Tim Black on.
So he's here. We listen.
So we're glad.
Man. Well, thank you, man. Wolfpack appreciates this, and I'm down to get into it. What's going on?
Okay. So how do you respond to sort of the latest news with Senator Sanders? A lot was made of him saying he's going to change the nature of his campaign. Like, how do you respond to that?
I think if people would have been reporting the fact that Bernie Sanders has been a workhorse, like all this time, people would be less surprised at what happened with his health, right? The guy's been working a breakneck speed for the last 3 years. I mean, don't forget, man, he didn't take time off after 2016.
He didn't.
Right.
He was out there
with
with Perez on this Unity Tour thing. So
that's a whole other story.
He's been killing it. Or Disunity Tour, right? Saving Perez from looking really bad, but I don't think you can save him. But the point is, Bernie Sanders has been a workaholic, and it's time for him to slow down. And when I hear him say this, I say, okay, you know what? He's right. But I'm still with him, and I still believe he has a lot to offer.
So I'm interested, Tim, and so we've been talking a lot about this, future debate strategy, how he can break out of the rut that he kind of finds himself. He's raised a lot of money, but at the polls, he seems a relatively flat pace. It seems to me that the one way in order to break out of that is he's got to start drawing contrasts with other people in the field. And I truly do not understand the inclination to be nice to Joe Biden and nice to Elizabeth Warren. I mean, if you're trying to show that you're the leader of the anti-establishment, you capture that anti-establishment anger, why not go after the people who you believe are not going to do as good of a job as you?
Well, he's going after them. He's going after them with legislation, though, and with bills. And actual weaponry. I mean, he just dropped an anti-corruption bill. Man, he's going after the DNC.
Absolutely.
So, he's the guy who's called out the Democratic Party more than Bernie Sanders.
I couldn't agree with you more.
He's not a Democrat. They make him a Democrat when people want to say, well, why don't you challenge the Democrats more? But he is an independent, remember?
But the thing is he goes on the stage, he just releases a sweeping anti-corruption plan. Yeah. What better chance than to say, here's the difference between me and every single other person on the stage? And I have not seen him do that.
No one else is going to say,
nobody else will say that.
Corporate contributions to the DNC. Right. No one else is going to say that.
And isn't that why people like you love him? I mean, that's why people like you love him. So why not draw that out?
I think it's been a combination of not wanting to appear negative. What they've been saying about Bernie. Right. He's mean, he's gruff.
Right. He's they're going to say it anyway.
Yeah, I was going to say it. So he's not holding back. But I don't think anything changes your momentum and you taking the gloves off like maybe a near-death experience. Right. So maybe now he'll be like, you know what? Forget it. I'm going all in.
Let's go after
Time to go after him. I heard what that Tim Black said.
There you go. That's right.
I want him to see him do more of that. But he's been doing it the way it counts. Not like Trump, who did it just in word. He went after Jeb Bush. But what did he really do? He just said some stuff. Bernie's actually putting together a bill to go after these guys directly. So he's the reason why the whole field has shifted left.
Yeah.
That's a Bernie thing, Johnson.
That's absolutely the case. So what do you see as, there's this ongoing debate. Are Warren and Sanders, are they the same? Are they different? Are you allowed to say that they're different? What's your view on all of this?
I don't care if you're allowed to say it or not. They are different. Yeah. At the core of it, I've seen you guys. You talk about it. Elizabeth Warren's policies are very similar to Bernie's, but what makes people vote for people? Yeah. Belief that they're actually going to carry out what they say they're going to do. Right. Consistency matters. She just got caught again. Unforced error. Yeah. How do you make you look bad? How do you make yourself look like a liar? By changing your own story about a situation that you interjected on your own stump speech. She pulled a Joe Biden on herself with this whole, I got kicked out of the job because I was pregnant thing. And we know discrimination occurs, but you're the one who contradicted you.
Right.
So it just feeds into the narrative that, Elizabeth Warren is someone that you can't trust, that she's going to.
And that's what I talked about here. I mean, look, this woman bought $10 million in ads against corruption, and she can't denounce Hunter Biden's seat on the Ukrainian energy company.
And she
How do you reconcile that?
Brother, she wanted to denounce it. You can see it in her. She started off denouncing it oh no, did she remember? Hold on, that's Joe Biden.
Right.
This looks bad to the team. Let me get back on script. So
I don't get it.
Yeah, it's interesting. So what would you want to see Senator Sanders do on the debate stage next week? What do you hope
I agree. I want him to be more aggressive, but I just think that I always feel that there's something more to why someone, like I'm not in the planning stages. I'm not in the campaign. I don't know. But I got to imagine that there's something they're saying we need to hold back for. It's a reason. Maybe unfavorability ratings. But when we say, look, Bernie's got the most donors, bar none. He's got the most contributors, small dollar donations. I believe he's the front runner if you want to actually count balls and strikes. I don't know what they count, RBIs, or we count yards, gains, first downs.
Okay, I get it. I know what you're saying.
So in reality, now I know who they're polling. But I don't see a lot of Joe Biden stickers. I've never seen an Amy Klobuchar bumper sticker. Feel what I'm saying?
I hear you.
Absolutely.
So I know that you weighed in on something else that has the internet afire. Ellen Degeneres took a video in which she appeared with George W. Bush. She apologized. Well, she explained for it in her show yesterday. Let's take a listen to that. We're going to get Tim's take on this before he goes.
Here's the thing. I'm friends with George Bush. In fact, I'm friends with a lot of people who don't share the same beliefs that I have. We're all different, and I think that we've forgotten that that's okay that we're all different. But just because I don't agree with someone on everything doesn't mean that I'm not going to be friends with them. When I say be kind to one another, I don't mean only the people that think the same way that you do. I mean be kind to everyone.
So, Tim, she made the comparison explicitly between being friends with George W. Bush, who in my view is a war criminal, and being friends with people who wear fur, which she also doesn't agree with. Those are roughly the same things, right?
Right. Yeah, they're exactly the same thing, Johnson. I think, look, I don't know where she's going with this, but I told people in the tweet, I think
you had a great tweet on
Look,
this.
man, come on. Ellen Degeneres is no longer just an LGBTQ activist. I mean, she was standing up for the people. At this point, she's just a rich person.
Right.
And she's part of that team that George Carlin described that we're not a part of.
It's a big club.
It's a big club, and we ain't in it, Johnson. But she's there. So, excuse George W. Bush. I mean, he may be a nice guy, but he's also a murderer. And that's the way I see it.
That's what I was talking about with Crystal, which is like, it's like, this is what happens when you're worth like $400 million. And I love that story, too, right? Like, oh, well, Jerry Jones's daughter invited me, so we flew down on our private jet, and there's all celebrities. I'm like, that's the gross part. Not just the George. I mean, it's like just this like concentration, conglomeration of all these people who disagree with each other in public. They don't disagree. They're all part of the same club.
This is the lie of civility, right? That civility trumps everything. As long as you're nice to each other, who cares who's getting screwed? Because it's not affecting them.
If we don't have the principles, like if you don't have something that you'll ride and die for, what are you really doing? So with Ellen and with a lot of other people, look, I like Hollywood, I like actors, I like actresses. They're great people, great. Do your thing, but maybe sometimes we need to fall back and let the activists actually be the activists. Let the politicians be the politicians.
Right. Yeah. Couldn't agree
That's all I'm saying.
I like that. Great to have you, Tim.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. You got it.
Next up on Rising, how does the conservative doctrine of today compare to 20 years ago?
Co-authors, retired Senator Jim DeMint and Rachel Bovard, they lay out their case for a return to the principles they say made America the most prosperous nation in the world history. Our conversation next as Rising continues.